Welcome to the Tenet podcast. My name's Todd Pearson, here with my partner and friend, Wes Brown in Rapid City, South Dakota.
Hey, everybody. It's a beautiful Sunday. Hope you're enjoying it. So go ahead, Todd.
All right. You always throw me off there, man.
Sorry.
You've been doing this the last couple times. I feel like I gotta cue you in better or something. I'm not sure. Anyway, we have a great podcast today for our listeners. And you know that each and every week we bring you a new artist that we talk to, find out what they do, how they conduct their business and how they make money, or talk about something art related, whether it's a gallery or a museum, anything art related. That's what we're all about. And today we are honored and privileged to sit down with Topher Straus. Topher, how are you?
I'm great, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your Sunday to sit down with us and talk about your art and art in general. We really appreciate it. Before we get too far into the business side of things, we always like to give our listeners a little bit of the artist's backstory. So you're a Colorado native?
I am. I'm a Colorado native, but I don't rock the bumper sticker. I like everyone that's coming here and the culture and the way that this dynamic state has grown and matured.
It definitely has changed over the years. I know at one point, I had considered moving out of Colorado because I was like, I don't know if it's ever going to like come into its own. And it's definitely done that now. And now I kind of, at times I pine for the old days of kind of the, the dirty rundown Denver. When I moved here in 86, it was definitely a totally different place. I remember driving around. I grew up in Fairbanks, Alaska. And so moving from Alaska to Denver was a little bit of a culture shock. But anyway, so you grew up here. Did you grow up in an artistic family?
Well, I mean, that's a little bit of a loaded question. My mom and dad were not artistic. I decided to get into acting when I was little. And I went to my first audition for KWGN, Denver's 2. And I landed my first audition and I was a on-air talent, did over 350 commercials and really got an insatiable appetite for visual media. And I didn't have any interest in producing art until I got to college. But I mean, I've always been creative and it's always been a big part of who I am.
Tell us a little bit about your art education. Is this something that you just did on your own, or what was that? What was that journey like?
I was thrown into it. So after I did my TV show, I wanted to get behind the camera and go to film school. So I applied to Syracuse University in New York, and they had a great film school. And I show up my freshman first day, and I learn, unbeknownst to me, that my core curriculum for film production the first year was actually all art, studio art. And I was thrown in classes with kids that had been doing it since they were little. And I had no idea. I was an athlete and an actor, and I had no idea how to produce art. And I've always been a good student, but that first semester at Syracuse, I almost failed out because I didn't understand the concepts. I didn't have any experience doing it, but that kind of presented itself with an opportunity of having a blank canvas and the ability to do things my own way. So once I figured out what that meant for me, I became really unconventional and I embraced all the things that I was learning and all the things that I was unlearning.
So did they start you from like ground zero? Like, hey, this is kind of the process of creating, or what? How does that work with film school? Because I would never have guessed that you were, that first year, it was more art oriented as opposed to learning camera skills or learning how to, composition or what have you.
Well, I didn't understand it either at first. I didn't understand the importance of understanding composition and color and balance. And why they had me do this. I did not start, with a basic introductory to art. I was thrown into my first day. We had a live model, and everyone else was like really doing a great job with shading, and they knew all their pencils and the density of the pencils, and I had no idea. So I really had to learn quick, and I loved it. I loved it so much. For me, my art was really personal up until about 3 years ago when I got my first show and started showing my art. But when I left Syracuse, I had this skill of creating art, and it was kind of in the background of my pursuits in filmmaking. So I would do paintings that really expressed where I was at what stage of my life. And 20 years passed. I didn't show one paint. I showed less than 15 people my work over the last 20 years. And then I had this moment in life where I decided, okay, the response I've gotten from my friends is really positive. The few friends who'd seen it, like I literally locked these paintings in a closet, and it was time to share. It was time to show it. And the response has just been really amazing. And I've since given up filmmaking, at least for the time being. And really, I've embraced being an artist.
Right on. So up to this career change that you had, you were a filmmaker, and then 3 years ago, you just had this epiphany, or what was the catalyst that said, all right, I'm just going to focus on my art and try to just be a full-time, artist doing what I want to do, not necessarily the filmmaking part of it?
I don't know if it was an epiphany or a forced epiphany. I found myself, getting over a really bad divorce and being in a really dark place and having two roads in front of me. One was to continue on the track that I was on, which was not a positive track. The second was to try something new and redefine myself. And that's what I chose.
So talk to me about the different mediums that you work in currently. I know that you have a very unique process for the art that you really push on your website, but I know that it's more than that. So talk to me a little bit about what all you do.
Well, I've really embraced working digitally on the computer. And what I'm focused on now is doing landscapes and cityscapes and animals. And I base it usually off a photo. And I use Photoshop and I push this program to the max. I mean, my paintings are 16 to 17 gigabytes, sometimes over 100 layers. So I'm really, really pushing the boundaries of Photoshop. And I basically do these landscapes on the computer, and I use a little color picker, and I try to pick the true colors from the environment. And it's amazing how many colors are in nature that we don't notice. So once I get my composition down, I project it onto the wall, which is really important because my IMAX screen is 24 inches. And these paintings that I'm doing on metal are huge. They're 45 by 90 inches for the original. So that's really big. And the subtleties in nature are quite profound. So I project my image onto a wall to try to make sure there's rhythm and that the colors all work well together. And I can see it in a scale that represents what I'm going to be printing. So once I lock my image, I basically print it onto aluminum using a process called dye sublimation, which is basically printing the image on an oil-rich transfer paper, putting the transfer paper on top of the aluminum, and through the combination of heat, about 360 degrees, and pressure, it's sublimed onto the aluminum, and the oils from the transfer paper are permanently become part of the aluminum, and then it's coated with a glossy resin. So it's a really cool scientific process, and it gives these images that I do a real modern look. And I quite frankly haven't found anyone that's doing what I'm doing, not just on the materials, but the way that I'm capturing these landscapes.
That's really cool, man. Like I've never seen anything like this either. And Wes and I were talking before the podcast. It's such a unique process. I think it's really cool when people are able to come up with their own, they think outside the box and come up with this process on their own. I always find that intriguing and inspiring that, but how did you come across this? How did you decide to do this? Was it a lot of experimentation?
Again, it was forced circumstance. I started doing these iPad finger paintings a long time ago, and I'd print them on canvas, and people would always touch the canvas. And I thought, man, you can't touch art. That's not right. And then I started thinking, well, if it was metal and if it was resilient, it would be more inviting to look at. It'd be more resilient. And so I started on a small scale doing little metal prints. And I really just love the way it looks. I'm going to be experimenting with a new material where it's called Chromolux. And but I love these shiny, glossy, modern materials. And I'm actually experimenting. I've done a couple paintings where I actually paint acrylic on top of the aluminum, and it gives it a really neat texture. So I do what I want, and there are no rules for me because I'm a pirate.
I think that's right on, man. I'm like, you got to be a pirate. And I think, art doesn't have to have any rules. There shouldn't be any rules. And yeah, it's really cool what you've come up with. I'm really intrigued. I'd like to see it in person sometime. And, definitely want to see these original pieces at some point hanging in a gallery. Let's talk a little bit about that. What has this pandemic done to business, and what does your year look like? I know that on your website, you had what looks like a lot of exhibitions scheduled. Are those still going to happen, or have those been postponed? What does that look like?
So I'm in a gallery in San Francisco, and they're doing a lot of online sales. I sold 2 paintings last week, which is really nice. I have 4 shows in Denver scheduled for 2020. So far, it's all up in the air. It's all up in the air. I know that I have a show opening up in July at Bit Factory Gallery. It's a group show called Open Spaces. And I think one of the main reasons that show is going to continue is because we hung it right before this pandemic hit, and it's just been sitting in the gallery, waiting. And so I can't wait for people to be able to see that, because it's a great show. A lot of amazing artists joining me. I'll have 5 pieces there. I've got a really exciting show that's kind of pushed me in a new direction. And it's with another Denver artist, Howard Harris, who's phenomenal. And we both love metal, and it's we love that sublimation process. And our work's very different, but it's going to really look good together. And the theme of the show is called The Masters. And what it is basically our interpretation or inspiration from various masters like Miro and Picasso and Matisse. And then we put it on metal. And the stuff that I've been producing for this is really awesome. And it's really, really been refreshing for me not to do landscapes right now. So I'm doing some really fun, uplifting, happy stuff. I'm part of the Denver Fine Art Fair, and that just got pushed back to October. And that's a 3 or 4 day event at the National Western Stock Show. And I'm only one of a handful of artists that's independently represented at the fair. The rest of the exhibits are going to be galleries from all across the nation. And there's going to be some really amazing work like Picasso and Gauguin. It's going to be exciting. And then I have a solo exhibition at the American Mountaineering Museum. That's actually my second time showing there. And it's a great partnership, but I don't know if they're going to open. I don't know the place we're at in the world is really interesting. And I don't know how it's all going to pan out. Like, are these galleries going to be able to financially make it? Or is it an opportunity for us as artists to redefine the market and to take matters into our own hands? Because up until now, it's been a bit of a coexistence. I sell a lot of work online, and it's the pandemic has certainly affected my sales, but I'm still doing okay.
That's good to hear. So you've had, in addition to this gallery selling pieces out of San Francisco, you've also been continued to do stuff online, continue to get
directly from Instagram. Folks are buying from Instagram. I just signed a commission deal for my second commission for a family in Boston. Actually, the folks that got me into landscapes.
Really?
So that's really exciting. Yeah. I didn't want to do landscapes. I thought they were boring. The thing I find with commissions that's really cool is every commission leads to, for me, a new style, a new body of work. And I really got my big break by doing landscapes. And if it wasn't for them to say, oh, come on, please, Topher, just do this landscape for me, then I wouldn't have gotten my National Park show at the Nietzsche Knoll Gallery in Denver. So
that's a really cool series, man. And Wes and I were admiring all the landscape stuff on your website. It really resonates. It's really cool. You know what's really smart? Hey, let me just say this. Let me compliment you. I think you got your act together when it comes to marketing. And for all of our listeners that are artists and you're wondering how you should set up a website, I think Topher's website is top notch. The way he has it laid out, it's very clean. One of the things I really like about it, man, is that you take your pieces and you show them what it would look like in a space. And I don't see that very often, but I think it's really important because people, when they buy art, they're trying to visualize what it might look in their space, and just having it in some kind of space, like you have it represented on your website, I think it gives them like a sense of scale, a sense of what it might look like, even though it might be a different space than their space. But I think I think that's really smart. That was one of the first things I noticed when I went on there. I was like, man, he's like doing it right. He's like showing, an actual modern space. The representation of the space is the exact kind of space that you envision your art being, because it's modern and contemporary. The space itself architecturally is a modern and contemporary space. So kudos to you for doing that and figuring that one out for sure, man.
Thank you. And I launched 2 websites in the last week. I have all my originals and limited editions on topherstraus.com. But then I just launched topherstrausprints.com. And on that, you can actually use augmented reality to see what the image will look like through your smartphone on your own wall. But you're right. It's that visualization of can I see this work in my house after looking at it in someone else's space? And that's really led to some good prospects, and it's I appreciate that. So thank you.
And because most of your stuff is large scale, I think people need to have that visual representation, don't you?
For sure. And my works are expensive, and the production of it's expensive, and my pricing has gone up quite a bit in the last 3 years. So it's really important for me as an artist to understand sales and advertising and marketing. And that's turned out to be a big part of what I do, and also a big part of like the success I've had.
One of our good friends that we've had on and we talk about a lot on this podcast is Bob Ragland. He just posted something. I'm going to paraphrase it, but he was basically saying that, talent is great, but business skills are totally underrated when it comes to the art world. And he's always pushing the business side of things. And like I said before, I think the way that you have your website laid out and the way that you market yourself is really right on the money. And that's why you're seeing success, I think, as an artist, because you're doing all those things that a lot of artists don't do. So cool that I'm glad you told us about the new website. I think that's really cool. I'll have to check that one out. That's awesome. Hey, when it comes to business and art, what is one of the key things that you think where people really drop the ball when it comes to their art careers? What would you say is one of the key things that you see other artists doing that or don't do that you do?
So I've really put a huge emphasis on my social media, on my Instagram, which is Creative Topher. And I try to create a bit of a brand around myself. And I try to present myself in an authentic, accessible way. I post almost every day on Instagram. And it's something that a lot of artists think is lame or don't want to do. But the bottom line is, I think for me as an artist starting, in my midlife or in my 40s and just coming into it and kind of redefining how I work, I've put a huge emphasis on business and I hustle, man. I hustle so hard. And it's because I'm passionate about what I do, especially right now when we're living in a pandemic and there's riots and racial inequality going on. I mean, I think that this is the time for my art to really take off because it's positive and uplifting and colorful. So I spend a lot of time on my Instagram, and that's led to sales directly through posts. So I would encourage all artists to embrace it because it's free and you reach a worldwide audience. I get messages at least once a month from countries that I didn't even know existed. I mean, I'm not that I'm geographically inept, but I'm reaching a wide audience using this free platform. And so I would encourage all artists to engage in Instagram. And when you do it, and I have this discussion with friends who say, oh, I can't post something every day, or what do I do? I only have 30 paintings. Well, you exploit your images and you do a post of a close-up of the image, and then you do a post of you with the image, and then you do a post of you talking about the image, and then you do some Instagram lives where you invite people to ask questions. I mean, so I try to really, for every image that I do, and right now I've got so many I haven't even posted, but when I was starting out on Instagram, I would really try to get the most leverage from each image. But the bottom line is post every day and be strategic about it and embrace it. If you want, you're putting yourself out there, and that's a little scary sometimes. But if you want to be a successful full-time artist, that's very important.
We hear this time and time again. You're probably the eighth artist that we've interviewed that has been able to really utilize that Instagram platform to their advantage. And a lot of people get opportunities and commissions and sell work via their Instagram feed. And so that's cool to hear that once again, that it works for you and how you go about it. So in addition to posting images, you're also and working those images in different ways and being consistent. You're also doing an Instagram live thing where people can ask you questions.
Yeah, I do that. I'm still working on it. I'm trying to get my mojo down for that. From what I've heard and read, Instagram Live is a brilliant free platform to gain new friends. And so I try to do it at least like twice a week, just because I want to improve upon it. Right now, it hasn't yielded much success. I have 30,000 followers, and on my Instagram feed, I'll probably get like maybe a couple hundred people watching. But as I understand the platform and how to talk and be engaging and have people stay on for more than 30 seconds, I think it's going to be really valuable. That's another thing that I do is I experiment so much with marketing and not just my art, but with marketing and I use advertising too. That's something a lot of artists don't do. I advertise in print publications, and I'm also going to be engaging in getting a marketing firm to advertise my originals and prints site. So, Todd, you ready for a crazy fact, man?
Yeah, lay it on me.
3 years, I've sold a lot of art. It's been great. I haven't paid myself one penny in 3 years. I'm trying to build a really stable, solid business. So I've got, a side job, and sometimes I'll drive Lyft, and I'm hustling, man. But every penny that I've brought into the art world, I'm putting back into marketing, and I'm reinvesting it until I get to a very successful level. I mean, I think marketing is everything. So I put a lot of money into marketing, and I'll continue to do that because it yields results. But I can't wait until I can pay myself for doing this. But quite frankly, I love what I do. I feel so gifted to be able to be an artist, to be able to have shifted careers at 45 and do something I love. And so I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it because I love it. And I do have to spend a lot on marketing, but it's money well spent.
I think that's so smart, man. I think a lot of people could, should do some of the same things that you're talking about and take advantage of that. It's, I know it's hard to, when you're trying to make ends meet, to take all money that you're earning from your art and just throw it back into marketing. But you obviously have goals. Did you sit down and just do you have a business plan, or did you write down hey, I want to be at this level at 5 years and this level at 10 years? Did you do something like that, or is it all just up here in your head?
I'm very goal oriented, and I believe in goals. And I am lucky enough to have a great studio manager. And we sat down just about a year and a half ago, the start of last year, the start of wonderful 2019. And I did my 3-year goal and my 5-year goal. And my 5-year goal was to get into a museum. 2 months later, I got a solo exhibition in a museum, and I was also featured in a show in New York and in San Francisco in museums. And so with goals, when I reach them, I reset them. So I'm very goal oriented, and I really have high expectations of myself and my studio manager and what we can achieve. And I'm also agile in my goals.
So you're constantly reassessing where you're at and tweaking them.
Yeah. And setting new goals when I meet them. And it's been amazing. When I sat down and I said what I wanted to do in 5 years, and I tried to envision where I'd be at a year from now, I'm way beyond anything that I could have even imagined. And I have a broad imagination, but things open up to you when you open up to them.
I love that, man.
I've done a lot of strategic planning for nonprofits, and a lot of times you'll go to a nonprofit that you've done a strategic plan for, let's say 3 years ago, and they'll walk in and they'll have to blow the dust off the strategic plan because they haven't looked at it. So they go through the process, but they're not always reevaluating where they are until they're maybe going after another big grant or that. So it's really cool to hear that when somebody is actually actively utilizing the process of being strategic, because I agree with you. I think it can be a powerful motivator, and it's just kind of like you said, it takes kind of the temperature where you're at and where you want to be. So kudos for you, because that's huge. That's a nonprofit world. You put artists in there, they don't think that way. A lot of them, I think they think, I'm going to paint, but they're not thinking about what's their end goal, how they're going to continue to do this long term. And so you've tapped into that resource and really worked it well. I mean, I'm impressed. That's awesome.
Thanks, Wes. And I really believe in looking at your goals, as you alluded to, every single day. I have a big whiteboard with all my goals and with the future prospects that I have. And sometimes I have to force myself, get out of this mindset and focus on my work. But it's all so exciting to me. But having goals is just a really good way to benchmark your success. Writing them down is even more, and looking at them every day, you can track it.
Do you share this kind of information on your Instagram? Kind of inspiring things like, hey, this is what I do, and if you're an artist, you should maybe consider doing this as well. Have you looked into sharing that kind of thing?
Yeah. So another venue that I didn't mention was Instagram TV, and I have a weekly TV show called The Landscape with Topher Straus. And I do messages for people and for artists and try to motivate folks. But I've been doing quite a few podcasts, especially recently. And I know that like for me, I want to be in a community of other artists. And so I'm open and receptive. And I often have artists call me up who say, I feel like I know you, and I watched your landscape show, and I have some questions for you. And I'm receptive to anyone that reaches out, and I think that's important to create a community, especially now.
That's cool. You know what? That's another theme that we see consistently when we talk to artists that are successful, is that, you know, people really want to engage with the artist, whether they're a buyer or a fellow artist. But having that community, I think, is really important. And that's awesome that you're engaging with other people and trying to raise up the community, whether it be, you know, via the internet or locally. It sounds like you're pretty involved locally as well. So I think, man, you're doing all the right things. And, you know, you look at your list of exhibitions since you've been doing this full time, and it's pretty impressive, man. I can tell that you've been hustling. You got like, looks like a good like 14, 15 exhibitions that you've done in the last 2.5 years, 3 years. So
yeah, I feel blessed. I feel blessed. Like, I hustled too when I was in Hollywood making movies and trying to get, you know, that started up. And I put a good 15 years into it, and I really worked hard. And the art thing, it's all coming to me because it's right. It's what I've been meant to do. And yeah, it's a lot of luck, but I guess luck is when preparation. What's that silly phrase about preparation and luck?
Oh, luck favors the prepared mind, or something like that.
That sounds good. I'd wear that on a t-shirt. So I just feel like this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And when I look back on my other lives, they have helped me to get to where I am. And I'm not bummed that I didn't show people my work earlier on. I wasn't ready.
Yeah, you know what, man? I think that things happen for a reason, and when they're supposed to happen, they happen. You know, sometimes, you know, the universe kind of hands you stuff, but also being receptive and open to it is also important. And I think it's really cool. We've talked to multiple artists that, you know, same position, and, you know, they're in their mid 40s and they just pivoted from what they were doing and had a really, or are having a really successful art career. So, you know, if you're out there listening and you're thinking, I don't know if I can do this or not, you know, it's all what you make it. And it doesn't matter what age you are. You know, it depends on your motivation and what you do with it. Right.
Totally. And it's the greatest job in the world, being an artist, being able to wake up every day, and every day I create. Every day I have to exercise my muscle. But if you're thinking about becoming a full-time artist, the best advice I heard is just do it. Make that leap and make it happen for yourself, and fight for it every single second of the day.
That's so true. Go ahead,
yeah.
Todd.
Oh, I was just going to go back to the social media thing. What platforms are you utilizing for your social media right now?
I'm using, of course, Instagram, Facebook. I'm going to be getting more onto Pinterest, although I think it's a lame platform. I have a bit of a Twitter following, but I don't really do tweets. I try to make my social media as streamlined as possible. So I'll post on Instagram and link it to automatically post to Twitter and to Facebook. And I have this rule for myself, right? Because we get so sucked into social media, especially during a pandemic. So I do not spend much time on Instagram, no more than 10 minutes a day looking at other people's stuff. For me, it's all about waking up in the morning, figuring out what I'm going to post, and then I'm done with it. You know, I'm thinking about getting on TikTok, but I don't know if that really speaks to the artist. Again, I'm agile. So when something new comes along, I'll try it out.
So when we interviewed Denver artist Detour, he's been utilizing Reddit, and he's found that he's been able to ramp up his social media via Reddit. I don't understand Reddit, so I can't attest to how Reddit works. But I think it's cool that you're on Pinterest, because I can't remember where I read this, but there is an artist that I was reading about that said that Pinterest was actually a good way to promote themselves and that they'd actually had. I'm kind of with you. Like, I don't quite get the whole Pinterest thing, but there's a lot of people on Pinterest, and I think it's an interesting platform to try to do promotion.
It is. And, so my price points are, for my originals, anywhere from 14,000 to 35,000. So when I'm on social media, I'm not really on there to try to find that individual that would buy an original or even a limited edition. It's more about exposure. I am going to start doing real targeted advertising to folks that have Learjets, love the outdoors, and love art, and really get in there. But social media for me is about just trying to communicate my positivity and admit my love of the world.
So do you think the key for you and your Instagram account, as far as growing the numbers that you have now, is it just been consistency, or was there if an artist was like, I've never been, and we've talked to a couple of these, never been on Instagram and haven't quite figured it out, what would be some tips you would give somebody that really wants to dive into that platform?
So you mentioned Detour 303, who has a great Instagram following. So the two ways that I learned about social media are, one, from a friend of mine who's a Hollywood actress who was on American Horror Story, Naomi Grossman, a Denver native, dear friend of mine, and she kills it on social media. So I sat down with her and I said, "Hey, Nene, how do you do this?" And she told me some of the same things I'm saying about being consistent and being authentic. And then I started looking at other artists, and Detour does a Tips Tuesday video on his Instagram. And I really liked that. And I saw he was getting a lot of views and building the community. And I thought, well, maybe I'll take his lead and learn from him. So I created the landscape on Instagram TV, and I'll get anywhere between, 2,000 to 6,000 views on that. I think if you want to learn Instagram and you find some artists you like and see the hashtags they're using, understand their frequency, and model it after them. You're welcome to model what you're doing after my Instagram. It's a lot of learning, but I would love to share it and to see other artists, embrace it.
Yeah, I've told a number of artists that we've been interviewing, is like that platform was made specifically for artists. It seems like very visual oriented. I think it's a perfect platform for visual artists. And
there's a lot of cool learnings that happen in that. You can break it down and you can see your analytics and understand, all right, wow, 30% of my followers that are looking at this stuff are in New York and San Francisco and Denver, and 14% of them are 18 to 20. And so you really understand who you're speaking to. And I've actually been able to kind of use those analytics and shift my perspective a bit. But it's an amazing platform.
That's a pretty cool tool, man, that you're able to do that. And I assume that's how you're going to really target your advertising. You're going to target some of these cities where you know that you have a huge following. And what kind of things are you going to do as far as advertising? I mean, I know you mentioned the print, and you're going to have some kind of agency, did you say, that is going to help you with your advertising?
Yeah. So I right before, the sky fell and the pandemic started, I was in San Francisco for a art fair called Superfine, which was really cool. And I really got a lot of learnings from doing that experience. It was my first art fair. And I was fortunate enough, my studio manager and I rented a room in Airbnb for one of original members of Shopify, the Shopify website. And she sat me down and showed me how amazing the platform is and how you can really understand who's looking at your stuff and target them. So it's pretty complex stuff. I've tried to do Facebook targeted advertising in the past for shows and stuff, but I think for what I'm trying to do to get to that elite art buyer, I'm going to pay a firm to manage my ads and to constantly shift them to get what I want. But every firm that I've talked to said, Topher, you can expect 4 to 8 times % return if you do this. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. That
Yeah,
is.
man, you're the first artist that we've talked to that I don't think a lot of people think about doing print advertising that much anymore because everything is so internet oriented. But you also, for as little time that you've been doing this, you already got a studio manager and you're looking at this ad agency to help you with your advertising. I think that's really smart. Going back to social media, rate in descending order, I guess, the platforms that you use. And if you could just talk about, obviously we know Instagram's probably number one. How do they all fall beyond Instagram?
Well, so for Facebook, I've been really fortunate to sell a lot of paintings to my friends that I've reached through my personal Facebook account. I've sold quite a bit of paintings through that and gotten a lot of like exposure through my personal account. And the learnings that I have from that is that we all want connection. And so when people know you and you've met them and they want to see you succeed and they want to be a part of that. So I also target my friends. Sorry, not target. I provide them with opportunities. Um, and that's been really successful. I have a lot of friends that I just sold a painting in San Diego to a high school friend from Kent, Denver, who I hadn't spoken to for 20 years. I think that I don't know how long it's been, but she just reached out to me and said, Topher, I love your work. Let's arrange shipping. And it was really cool, but that's a neat platform. And it just really goes to the fact that it's all about connection. And when you can meet someone at a show or out and about at a restaurant or whatever, take that opportunity to connect and to connect on a sincere level. And because people really do need art in their life. And when they know someone, you're probably going to sell some paintings to some friends. Pinterest is a number 3 for me. I'm just starting to embrace that platform. Twitter's number 4 because it's just not visual. TikTok sure is a lot of fun to watch, but I haven't figured out how to, get on it as an artist and be engaging on the level that I am on Instagram. So,
Yeah, I was looking at, I do Pinterest a lot. Let me start with that. I like Pinterest. It's a great way to waste a lot of time because I can spend hours just going down the rabbit holes of what it sends you, and some TikTok girls out there dancing. So then I was like, what are the most popular TikTok? There's like these, I don't remember their names, but like three of them they just do these short little 15-second dance routines, and they have millions and millions of followers. They're like number 1 and number 4. And it's just like, I don't understand this, but obviously it got me suckered in just because it was just like weird. And I'm assuming they're making bank because, these top performers and, these influencers, they can just make some money. And I would imagine those teenage or 20 something girls that are dancing those short routines are probably making bank. So it's just interesting.
It is. So that's another thing that's really interesting. I've been approached by a couple different companies, like liquor companies and clothing companies, to be an influencer for them. And I don't know if that's the right thing for me to do. I'd rather make money on my art than talk about how good this tequila is with my art. But there's a lot of different revenue streams out there. And I can't wait to check out Reddit and see what Detour is doing and how he's embracing the platform after hearing that. That's definitely my next exploration after hearing that.
When we talked to him, I don't even think that he quite understood the whole Reddit thing, but he was like, that was one of the things he mentioned, right, Wes? He was like, yeah, I just started using Reddit and I just figured that, every platform that I can possibly be on and people see my work, it's a numbers game. Basically, it was, I think, where he was going with that. And so if you're on as many platforms as you can, get on and get your stuff out there, the better off you're going to be. But yeah, I don't think he had even kind of had his finger on the pulse of it yet. He was just like, I saw some other artists utilizing it. And I'm thinking, well, I should probably utilize it too,
My studio manager is actually doing that as well. He's starting to get on Reddit. I just don't understand it yet.
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah, my first exposure to Reddit was when I sold advertising for a radio station. All their DJs was on Reddit, but it seemed like there was a lot of hate going through there. Like people would nitpick on them, but did you read this on Reddit? And it's just like gossip and stuff like that. But I'm sure there's something more to that than I even realized. So yeah, that's interesting.
And then there's also, some really interesting things going on. Like I was approached by a website called West Cover, and they work with interior designers, and they found somehow they found out a lot of my art that was sold around the country and got interior shots of it, whether it be through websites or Instagram, and they place on the map the various locations in the art alongside like lamps and desks. And so it's there's just so many opportunities out there, but try them all, like I try to keep my door open, and I'll try anything, and I'll work with people. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but at least and at least you tried.
Well, and the other thing about you though, is that you're obviously thinking about how does it fit with my brand? And that, I think that's important. Instead of just jumping in, you're like, well, I got to figure out how it fits, and maybe it doesn't fit, like the TikTok thing. That's just smart business. And I really appreciate that, to hear that.
I think it's cool that, and I was going to ask you about this because we've had conversations as of late about working with interior designers. We talked to an artist a couple episodes ago where some guy that had a large house up in the mountains, he had just bought that place, and he was trying to find, stuff for his walls. And so he was like, hey, I like your art. Will you come up to my house with a bunch of your art and I'll look at them? And he was apprehensive about doing that. He was like, I got to load all these pieces up in my vehicle and then drive up and I don't even know if this guy's going to, if he's for real or not. But he got up there and he sold like 3 or 4 pieces, and he said it was a really lucrative day. So I think going back to what you were saying, as far as being open to it and exploring the opportunities that are presented to you. And then if it works, great. And if not, no big shakes, but at least you explored it. And I could see like high-end homes, interior designers that work for clients that, have these huge homes. I could totally see them buying your art, man. The way that you have it displayed on your website in these contemporary spaces, I could see it selling all day long.
Yeah, that's something that's just started in the last 6 months, is I've been approached by probably 5 or 6 interior designers from New York and California who have found me on Saatchi website, Saatchi Art. Uh-huh. And, I'm on Saatchi and I'm on Etsy, and the interior designers will go there and type like Yosemite National Park or browns and greens or nature, landscapes. And they'll sit there, and that's their job, is to find intriguing art. And I sold quite a few paintings to interior designers for their clients. And I've also worked with interior designers and interior architects while they're designing houses, and they're part of the creative process of the painting that I'm doing. And we work together, and I love that process. So that's something that's just started, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, I could see that collaboration with an interior designer being pretty exciting, working with them to try to figure out where your art fits into a space, especially if you're into architecture or, great design. So, looking together through a high-end house and how they're decorating it and figuring out where your art fits in that, I think that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I'm probably going to, buy some mailing list of interior designers around the nation and target them specifically to get the message out, because this stuff is made for not just homes, but also commercial spaces too, because it's such a durable material that it's printed on. So just trying to access, the right people is so important, and understand like sometimes you can't do it yourself, and it's okay to spend money to get it done, because that's going to lead to more money. So
I think that's a huge tip right there for anybody that's listening. So those things that we don't necessarily as artists want to take on, or we might not want to spend time educating ourselves, if you're willing to spend a little bit of money to help facilitate that with somebody that knows what they're doing, it'll come back to you.
And you can spend more time doing what you love, making art.
Exactly. All these exhibits that you have listed on your website that you've done, and then the ones that are currently on the schedule for this year, how did you go about getting those?
Well, I'm going to talk about one in particular that's super cool, and just that whole openness and to letting things come in and how it all happened. I had a friend who called me up one day. This was about 6 months after my national parks exhibition. And she's like, Topher, there's a Colorado Business and Arts Association forum for outdoor retailers at the American Mountaineering Museum in 2 weeks. And I think you should definitely approach them to get your artwork in there. So yeah, those are my people that love the outdoors. So I contacted the CBCA, and while they were on the phone with me, I'm like, hey, listen, please just pop up my website, take a look at it, and tell me what you think. I imagine that you're going to have your speakers, just in front of a blank wall, and it's going to be a little boring. How about I bring 3 or 4 paintings down, and we can have them as a backdrop for these top Colorado outdoor retailers as they speak. And they said, yeah, your art's perfect for it. We would love to involve you in it. So I went down to the American Mountaineering Museum and I set up my work behind them. And there were maybe about 300 of the state's top retail folks there, from Smartwool, VF Corp, Topo Designs, just some really awesome companies that not only embrace the outdoors, but have a good ethics and morals about them and love to work with visual artists. So, it was this whole thing, and I was rolling solo. So I got my drink and I'm like, okay, I got my drink now, and I always do this. I'm going to find the most interesting person to talk to in the room. Oh, there she is. So I started talking to this lady, and she also had a name tag that said Smartwool. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to talk to them. And the conversation went really well, and it was time to go back and to listen to the speakers. And she was like, why don't you sit at our table? So I did. And part of the negotiations with the CBCA that I worked out was when they started the outdoor forum, that they announced, hey, here's the artist Topher Straus and blah, blah, blah. And so, everyone in there, they had me stand up and wave, and the Smartwool folks and I started talking, and that could be leading to something really cool. And it is leading to somewhere cool. And then I started thinking, well, why don't I try and get my work up in this museum? Because it really pertains to mountaineering. So the next day, I marched down with my goal list, and I talked to the head curator for the American Mountaineering Museum, and we hit it off. And he said, okay, you can have a solo exhibition all summer long last year. Turned out to be the most successful exhibition they've ever had. They invited me back for 2020. Hopefully, they're going to be open, and I'm going to be I've got a new collection of works that's all Colorado landscapes. But all that spawned from a phone call and someone saying, why don't you get down there and see what happens? And since then, I've also formed a really awesome relationship with the CBCA, and they've invited me to events. And I just wrote a letter of recommendation, kind of highlighting everything that happened because of this one event, and how one thing leads to another, and how grateful I am to the CBCA. So it's just amazing how it's all worked out, and how being tenacious and not quitting and letting one idea spawn another has really helped me.
That's a great story, man. When you were talking about this, and then we were talking about, liquor companies reaching out to you as far as influencers, I could totally see working that outdoor company angle. And I could especially see like a company like Patagonia, like glomming onto your work. I could totally see Topher Straus, artwork and, on products. And have you thought about something like that? I mean, it's so graphic.
Yeah, I have thought about that. And that's funny you bring that up, because at this event, one thing I forgot to mention is that Aspen Public Radio interviewed me at the event, and they were asking me, are you a sellout, Topher, for being here, for being part of this business association, and would you put your stuff on clothing? And yeah, you bet. We're at this great time as artists where we can redefine the system. There are no rules. I'm a commercial artist. I make iconic landscapes that make people happy. Am I a sellout? I don't care. I would love to see my images on people's socks. And because the world needs more color.
Right. Yeah,
Most
I totally
definitely.
agree, man. I would totally buy a Patagonia shirt with a graphic of, Yosemite Falls on it that you've done or whatever, I think I could totally visualize that,
Well, more than likely, yeah, it's not going to be Patagonia. It'll probably be a company within VF Corp, North Face or Smart Wool, but there's some
Okay.
really cool prospects happening. And it's cool when you meet a company like Smart Wool that not only loves nature, but also embraces artists. They do this great program that I learned about at this forum, where they don't say, okay, Topher, I want to use your work and put it on our brand. They collaborate with artists. So they have a line of socks by whomever. And so they promote the artist and collaborate with the artist, which is so cool. When a company can embrace artists and work together, and you've got a powerful commerce machine.
Absolutely. And, I think a lot of artists don't think in that manner that, it's fine art or whatever, but they wouldn't consider branching out into other avenues per se, because it's not what they consider what a fine artist does or whatever. I think it's cool that you're open to it. And I agree. Like, why not? If somebody wants to collaborate with you and they appreciate your art, why not, take advantage of that and use it as not only another revenue stream, but another way to market your, what you really do,
Yeah. And so as I talked about earlier, I launched 2 websites this week, brand new sites. One of them is a print site where I'm selling open edition prints, and it's a really cool site and what you can do with it. But I've really struggled as an artist about selling my prints. Does that devalue my originals and limited editions? I struggled with this for like a year. I want to make my work accessible, but I also want to make, have it retain the value. And so I thought about it in a couple different perspectives. One way was, okay, if someone's going to buy a Lexus, they're going to buy a Lexus. If someone's going to buy a Toyota, they're going to buy a Toyota. So it's a different market, right? And then the second thing I did is I started just testing around with a prototype that I worked on for a long time of having some of my art on a license plate size metal frame. And I decided, rather than try to sell that, I'm going to start giving them out. So I started giving them out to a lot of the interior designers that have approached me as a sample so they can see the material and all. And then I started giving it out to friends. I sell it in a couple different outlets in Colorado, but someone got one of my license plate prints and had it on her desk and just contacted me to buy a limited edition because she looked at it on her desk every single day and dreamt about buying it in the bigger size. So, when people can live with your art and see it, it's going to lead to more.
So what percentage of your sales, and maybe you don't know this, but
I know it.
After I started asking that question, I'm thinking to myself, I'm pretty sure he knows this, but what percentage of your sales are local to like out of state, national type sales? You have the breakdown for that?
Yeah. Colorado folks have totally embraced me, and I really, feel fortunate. I advertise in a magazine called the Aspen Sojourner in Aspen to get into the Aspen market. I'm going to be in an article in Colorado Homes and Lifestyles. I'm all about this state. I love Colorado more than any place in the country, maybe in the world. And I've lived in some good places like New Zealand. We're lucky to be here. And I feel really lucky that probably right now, I would say about 60% of my sales are coming from Colorado. And the other 40% are from either New York or California. But my California sales have really been taking off, especially in the first half of this year. It's really taking off. So I've been encouraged to get a California tax license because I'm doing such volume there now. So a way to get around it is I have a North Carolina printer, and if it's in a California printer, so a West Coast printer and an East Coast printer. If I ship from my East Coast printer to California, I don't have to pay sales tax. I swear I'm an artist, but I guess today I'm wearing my businessman hat.
Well, it all goes together, man. And that's why we wanted to talk to you, because I knew that, the first moment that we met you and we just talked for maybe 10 minutes max, that I knew that you had it going on and that you understood the business side of things, which most artists don't. Most artists think that somebody's going to come knocking on their door and, offer them a bunch of money to do art. And that's just not the way it is, man. You got to get out there and hustle, and you got to understand your audience, your demographic, and then market to those people. And you're doing all those things that I know a lot of artists don't want to do. But if you want to be successful, if you have these goals and you want to, and your original pieces, like you said, they're not cheap. You're not trying to move $525 posters or prints of your art. You're trying to sell to people that have money and that appreciate art, and you want to see it hanging in their spaces. And if that's going to happen, they're going to pay what you ask for it, right?
Yeah, totally. I also really feel it's important to make my art accessible, and so that everyone can bring a little bit of beauty and nature in their home, make their Zoom calls better. So that's why I launched that print site. And I don't see them as competing businesses. They are two different businesses, and I separate them totally. So,
and it forces you to kind of market them differently too, because like you said, when you're focusing on people that can afford to buy a Learjet, that's a totally different market. And somebody like me or some kid right out of college that maybe went to school in Colorado and wants to take it back to their home in South Dakota because they got a teaching job. Well, they're not going to buy a $35,000 print, but they can buy something, in their price range and bring back a piece of Colorado with them. Right. It doesn't conflict with one another.
No, it doesn't. And I'm actually creating specific pieces. Like I'm almost done with this great new painting of Boulder's Flatirons. So, for that, I'm going to market to the alumni club. Did I say alumni club? That's not a real thing. I'm going to market to the alumni club of Colorado University. But those college students or people that love Colorado and want to bring a piece of it home, they're going to have my piece in their home and look at it every day. And I don't do metal for my open edition prints. And I've really differentiated it in terms of size and material. So I wouldn't be surprised if like 5% of the sales that I do of the open edition stuff leads to a commission or a limited edition sale, or possibly even an original, because you're in people's eyesight every day.
And you've mentioned this more than once since we've been doing this podcast. Your art makes people happy. When I look at your landscape stuff, it makes me happy. I look at the colors. There's a feeling of contentment, for lack of a better description, that kind of washes over me as I'm looking, at all the stuff on your website. I can't wait to see it in person, but it does make me happy. And it does give me a sense of, kind of serenity, for lack of like I said, lack of a better description. And we've found that the artists that, like yourself, that are branching out and kind of offer something for everyone, they always do really well. Those artists that I've met that, maybe you can't afford a $14,000 original, but you can afford, and I don't know what your other prints are where they start at. Maybe you want to talk about
$75.
$75. So $75 all day long I'm sure you can be selling prints. And like you said, they're totally different markets, but you're offering something for everyone. People can't go out and buy an original Ansel Adams, but they love Ansel Adams' work and they'll buy a $50 poster, right? Mm-hmm. So here you're getting a print and, something that's going to bring you joy. And like you said, it might lead to, a commission or them buying another original piece of work that you've produced.
And so when I do paintings, I often I'm doing a bunch of really beautiful, fun animals right now. And I'll go to Google and I'll search most popular animals. So I'll be the first to admit it. I'm not a big fan of cats, but cats, people love their cats. So I just did a painting of a cat. And the cool thing about the national parks and that being kind of centerpiece of what I've been doing is at these exhibitions, people come up to me and they talk to me about their own experience with their grandmother before she passed away at Rocky Mountain National Park. And I'll get people telling me stories and I'll tear up. But it's that connection, that personal connection that people have with these various locations that is, I think, really been pivotable. I'm making up words.
That's beautiful. That's what I do.
Do you? Nice.
Yes,
well, I'd like to hear some.
You fit in perfectly with Wes and I, Topher.
But giving people that connection, right? Like giving people that so they relate it to their own lives and their own experiences. Or, Glacier National Park. I've always wanted to go there. That looks beautiful. I think I'm going to go there. So it's like just getting people to think and accessing, their memories or their desires is what I'm all about. I do iconic. That's why I do it.
That's awesome. I love it. So I know you said you started with a commission to start and that kind of drove you down the landscape, but can you talk about because your landscapes are so unique. Like, was there a process of a 20-year process, obviously, right? I mean, can you nail it down? Like, how did you come up with it? Where just like, boom, did it happen? Like, I'm going to nail it. And then a lot of experimentation because it's just so unique. I just love it.
Well, I'm realizing after talking to you guys that there's a lot of repeating themes. And I was forced into this style. So what I mean by that is I did this commission for a friend that I didn't want to do. It turned out really good. I was about to have my second show on Santa Fe, and it was going to be a 2-person show with Howard Harris. I'm going to be doing this show coming up with. He had to back out because he had a show in Italy, and he has shows all over. He's amazing. So Neitza Knoll said, Topher, find another artist that has your style. Because at the time I was doing like dragon parades in San Francisco, these really cool metal pieces and very different work than I'm doing now. And I thought about it and I thought, I can't find anyone that's doing what I'm doing or anything like it. And this is an opportunity to have a solo exhibition. So I'm going to go for it. So I went in and I showed Neitza my commission. She's like, oh, that's really good. I'm like, how about you give me a solo show centered around the national parks? She's like, I like that idea. What else do you got? I didn't have anything else. I had 3 weeks to produce, 2 weeks to produce 10 paintings to fill my solo exhibition. So it was right over the holidays. I didn't take a day off. I woke up at 4 a.m. every day, and I did about 10 hours of art every single day to force this style that is still evolving, but it forced me into this position, this wonderful, creative whirlwind where I had to discover what is it I'm trying to do. And I did. And not only did I produce these works, but right when the show opened, all the national parks were shut down for political reasons. So I got a lot of publicity for that and everything lined up. But it really works when you're creative to like force yourself to with a deadline and work tirelessly to find that style. So that it was crazy. She thought I was crazy, and she still does. I love her. I just talked to her yesterday. But it's that's when things happen.
That's a
just
great
like college.
story. Yeah.
Thank you.
I love it. I'm a huge national parks fan, by the way, too, and landscape photographer. And so your stuff resonates with me. I love it. And I just I looked at when I first opened them up, I was just like, oh my God, this is just freaking awesome. And I just love the colors and, the different shades. And yeah, I was really taken with your stuff right away. It's beautiful, beautiful work.
Thank you. Thank you. And in response to your question, I try to put rhythm into everything I do, the rhythm of the color. And so I listen to music, and that really drives a piece. And often I listen to the same album over and over and over. And for the last 2 years, it's been Sunday in the Park with George. But rhythm and music really it drives my lines, drives my colors. And I hope that when people see my pieces, they either think of two things: rhythm or yummy food. So I've been trying to make landscapes look like food recently.
I could see that. I could see that in your art, actually. The color palette that you use and the texture of it, it kind of has that vibe, man. That's cool. Hey, well, on your website, you're very descriptive on every part of the process, every part of if you're ordering a piece, if you're commissioning a piece. One of the things I pulled out that I thought was interesting is that when you do commissions, you have obviously a formula that you work off of, and you quote a commission rate of $8 a square inch. How did you come up with that formula?
So first off, I believe in total transparency. It's so important to be transparent with your clients. So I felt it really important not just to put like my commission process and a description of it. I have a link to my contract for my commissions and my pricing up there. I also wanted to put my pricing on my website, which a lot of artists don't want to do. But if someone is going to know if they're interested, if they see the price, and it saves you time. So for my pricing for my commissions, which is actually about to increase because I've gotten a lot of commissions and I need to focus on other stuff. So I'm going to up that rate a bit. But how did I get to $8 a square inch? 2 years ago, it was at $2.50 a square inch, and I could do it, but now I'm valuing my time more, and I've got a lot of things that we haven't discussed in the works right now. And so when somebody comes to me for a commission, I want them to know exactly how much they're getting, and the $8, well, it's, I've got a lot of cost. And like I said before, I haven't taken one penny out of my corporation that I've formed for this to pay myself. All that money is going to go back into marketing. So right now, I'm doing fine at $8 a square inch, and a lot of artists don't like that square inch model of figuring out the pricing, but it's worked well for me, especially in the commission market.
Yeah. So that's kind of like sculptors. A lot of times they'll do 3 to 4 times the price of the forge. So if they're $10,000 to forge their piece, they're going to charge 30 or 40,000.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's interesting.
Another thing I noticed that you have on there, when you talk about process and taking on a commission, that you really work closely with your clients and give them process updates. And it sounds like you're very communicative about what's going on and what their piece is looking like. And talk a little bit about that, because that's something that I've never seen on an artist's website. So I thought that was kind of interesting and cool.
Every commission that I've done, every single person has been so in love with the piece that I created for them. And it's because I involve them in the process every step of the way. not only do I involve them in like, hey, here's some updates, but I work in a 2-hour working session with each client to talk them through and make changes directly so that they can feel a part of this commission, and also to create an experience. I mean, it's a lot of it's about experience and a memory. And so by doing that, you're engaging them. And every time they look at this painting of Bora Bora, they're going to remember that time when they were in my studio and we were talking about, well, what do you think about this shade of green? Do we lighten it up a touch? Okay, let's do it. And how about we make this leaf just a touch bigger? Okay, here you go. And so it's about that. And that's why I do it, because it makes it more valuable. Number one. Number two, they're a part of it. And number three, it's making sure you're on the same page. A lot of artists do commissions and just say, okay, here you go. Not me. I do drafts, and I make changes with the client, directly with the client, and try to create that experience that they'll never forget. Give them some nice cookies and tea and just have a good time. And I've gotten a lot of customers coming back after that experience for another commission because they enjoyed it so much.
They enjoyed the process of what they experienced with you. It was an experience that in addition to, they have this beautiful piece of art that they wanted commissioned for their space. They had this experience with the artist and they feel like they're part of something.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Another really smart thing that I thought that you do, you list all the different ways that you can pay for the art on your website, which I think is really smart. Because I think when people, maybe they're a new art buyer, or maybe they don't know how buying art online works, but they're not really sure how they can pay for it. So you pretty much just spell it out right there. Hey, I take all these different types of payment, and everybody's going to have at least one of those, because there's like 10 or 12 of them listed on the site. No matter what, you can buy art. But the other thing that I saw on there, which I thought was really interesting and really smart, is that you offer financing for pieces over $1,000, and you do it through a company called Art Money. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think a lot of times people think that if they don't have the money up front, that they're not going to be able to buy an original Topher Straus piece. But that's not the case, because there's many ways to do it. And you figured out a way to work with people to do that. So if you could talk a little bit about that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, Art Money is a great company, and their founder is from Australia, and he's a collector and wanted to have access to more expensive pieces, but didn't quite know how to make it work. And he came up with this great concept. And the Art Money site is so great because basically it splits your purchase over 10 payments, anything over $1,000. Now, I'm really lucky to have been selected by Art Money, because usually they only work with galleries. But because of the volume of sales that I do, they were very receptive to working with me. I think it's all about options and giving people the opportunity to buy in installments. And so let's say someone buys my brand new flat irons piece that's coming out in a couple weeks. And they go through Art Money, and at the initial payment, they receive the piece. And then 5 payments down, they aren't able to afford it anymore. The piece is insured by Art Money completely. And they'll even try to collect the piece back. But having that assurance makes me feel like I can sleep at night when I sell on Art Money. Another thing that I do that I need to communicate on my website is I really, believe in community, like you guys, in creating this podcast and this community. And so when I sell a piece, I try to donate money back to different organizations. And I can't really name my employer for one of my part-time jobs, but they match everything that I donate. So $500 donation from the sale of an original becomes $1,000. I'll work with the collector and say, hey, can you give me 2 or 3 organizations that you really believe in that we can donate some money to? And that's another thing that I do that really, really involves the collectors and helps them to feel even better about their purchase. Not only are they getting good art, but they're also helping out their community.
Can you
fantastic.
list any of the organizations you give money to? Is that something you can do, or?
Yeah, I give money to Redline in Denver. I'm going to be giving money to the Boys and Girls Club of Denver. A lot of artist advocacy groups, national parks and outdoor environmental preservation groups. That's something I'm really passionate about, obviously. But it all feeds into it all, And sure, I could use that $1,000, but I know other people and organizations, especially now, could use it more.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. One of our other artists that we talk, the Bob Ragland question of what do you do when you get a big paycheck? And J.K. Dooley said she spends some, she saves some, and she gives some away. And so you're doing the same thing. Obviously, you're paying a lot of marketing money, but you're giving some of that money away as well. And that's huge. That's huge for, I imagine, collectors just kind of like, oh my God, yes. No, some of my money is or some of this money for this painting is going to go to the good use for other projects. So kudos for you. That's awesome.
Well, thank you. I think it's so important as artists. We're warriors. Some of my friends in my art group are like, I just don't feel like we are important right now. There's all this stuff going on. And I think we are important. And I think that we're more important now than ever before. We have the opportunity to do things that are controversial and get people to think. We have the opportunity to use what we love to help other organizations that we believe in. And I do probably 5 different charitable donations of my work to raise money to different organizations like the Denver Center for Performing Arts and various auctions. And I see it as my responsibility as an artist. I'm getting to do what I love. And when I can do what I love and help different people, it feels good.
That's awesome, man. I think it's really important to, like you said, give back to the community, and artists are important because, without art, our culture, our society doesn't progress. So we're a very integral part of the evolution of who we are as a species, basically. Let me ask you this. This is a question that, since you just answered that question to Wes's, we've talked to a couple artists where they donate to various charities or auctions. When you donate that, do you set the price, or do you let the auction, whoever's running the auction for that charity, do they set the price?
Almost always the auction always sets the price. One of the things that I think is important as a artist / business person is to always attend the events. A lot of artists will donate their painting and stay at home and produce work or whatever. I go to these events. I stand right beside my painting and I meet everyone that I can and talk to them about the work because of connection. So that's something very important to me. And I was at the Saturday Night Alive event for the Denver Center for Performing Arts that raises money for childhood arts education. It's awesome. And I've done it for maybe 5 years and raised over $15,000 over the course of time. And this last time, I was featured in the Denver Post in a photo because I was right there by my art, standing beside it. And I saw someone with a camera. I said, come on over, let's talk. Hustling.
You are a marketing person to the core. You are a marketing person to the core.
Do you know Bob Ragland?
I definitely know of him. I haven't sat down with him, but his name comes up. I just did an interview with Black Tie Colorado, and his name came up like 5 times in that conversation. And
yeah.
I think I need to meet him because I think we'd probably really mesh.
Yeah, I totally, that's why I was asking you that. I think you guys would get along like like no tomorrow. So along this whole auction question again, and Wes, were you going to answer that, or were you going to ask that? Because okay, so we've had differing views on this, because sometimes when you let the auction kind of decide the price, it gets sold for under your market value, and some artists feel that like that's not right, that it should sell for market price, that it could potentially devalue your work, because here you sold a piece for, a couple thousand under what you would normally sell it for. How do you feel about that?
And I think mainly they want to protect their relationships with their galleries.
Yes,
so
there you go.
I think that's kind of their motivation. So they kind of go like, okay, here's my piece, but you're going to pay my commission, which is 60%. You get to keep 30% of the commission, and this is the minimum bid that this piece has got to go for. I've seen that. So I think it's more about protecting the galleries that they're in. But anyway.
Well, first off, I've been approached by various galleries to be represented. I don't believe in representation as an artist. I like galleries, but I don't need them. I want to be free and show multiple galleries. Regarding auctions, actually every single auction that I've ever been in for a community event, my work sells for a lot less than it usually does. And yeah, sure. Does it devalue? I don't know. Do you get in front of a couple hundred folks that might love your work and might want to commission? Yeah, you do. So most importantly, are you doing something good for your community? I mean, I've got a little bit of an ego and I've got a lot of pride, but when it comes to doing something good, I put it away.
Well said.
That's a great perspective. And the fact that, and now I was just going to say something and it just left. So go ahead, Todd. It's gone. If I think of it in the next minute or two.
Oh man. No, I think that's well said, man. I'm glad that you feel that way, because like I said, we've had different opinions, but I was just curious for somebody like yourself, who's really marketing has marketing savvy and is hustling all the time. But I got the sense that you do this out of the kindness of your heart. What it sells for is not what's on your mind. It's about giving back to the community, because you're very community oriented. So you have a young son who is also an artist. Let's talk about Oliver real quick.
So I'm a single dad, and my dad was not the best dude. So I made it my mission in life to be the best father I can be for my son. And, I'm able to educate him the way that I think would benefit him the most. And so we've been doing a lot of art together. Behind me is my easel, and right beside it is Oliver's easel. He's 10 years old, and he has embraced his emotion paintings so much. And it's been such a amazing outlet for him to express his emotions about racial inequality, about the pandemic. And he's got a show with Phil Bender at the Pirate Gallery coming up. So my 10-year-old son is about to have a show in a gallery, and it's not his first show. So, we do art together. It's a great bonding process, and he's actually become part of my Instagram, and people love hearing him talk and talk about how he does these emotion paintings and what the emotions are. And he says just some amazing things like nature is art and art is nature. And everything that I do is for my son. My goal is to be the best father to him and accept him for who he is and help him to grow in who he wants to be. And I'm just so pleased that he paints with me at least twice a week, and he gets into it. It's awesome.
That's so cool. Wes and I had the privilege of meeting Oliver at a gallery opening a few months ago before the pandemic, and he is a very articulate, very intelligent young man, and I look forward to seeing what he does with his art career. Having you as his mentor, he was on it when Wes and I were there at the gallery. You could tell he has the same same stuff that you do. He was ready to sell, man. He's like, hey, I got a show coming up, and now I'm an artist too. And
yeah, he's a great kid. Great kid.
Thank you. He is a great kid, and you know, I'm not really his mentor though. He's more my mentor.
He gives back, huh?
It's reciprocal,
so
right?
Much. Yeah, and he's so excited about this show with Phil. I'm really excited to see where his art goes and how it evolves, and it's very good.
Have they announced the dates? Oh, you said, is that the one that got pushed back to October? No, that was something else. When did
that's the Denver Art Fair.
Yeah.
Oliver's show, I spoke to Phil maybe 2 weeks ago, and it's still up in the air, but it's going to happen. Phil's work is great. He's a real Denver icon. And for Oliver to be showing with Phil is really exciting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, if I can, I'll reach out to us when his show is opening, and I'll love to come down if I can, and awesome. support the emerging artists of Denver. That's awesome.
He actually came down because he heard his name. He could jump on for a second if you guys wanted to talk.
Yeah,
let's get him on.
Come here, kiddo. Here, you're going to put these earbuds in.
Hi, Oliver. How are you? Good. I don't know if you remember us. We were at the Bit Factory, and you were there with your dad.
I actually do remember that.
That's good. Yeah. So tell us about your art. I hear you're going to have a showing here pretty soon at the Pirate Gallery. Talk about your style.
So I basically like to do abstract kind of, and just splattered on the canvas and spread it out. And it's not really abstract. It's kind of like, so I take emotions that I had from before, and I just paint it out on the canvas. So yeah, that's the type of art that I do.
So does that help? Has that helped you during this pandemic and everything you're seeing on TV? I know your dad's talked about the race stuff. Has that helped you kind of work out some of those emotions?
Yeah, it's helped a lot. I actually did an Instagram live yesterday, and it really helped. So
that's phenomenal.
Just doing paintings. It's actually not done yet, so I'm going to work on it today, and I'm going to improve it. So,
Todd, you got anything?
Yeah. So talk to us about the show that your dad was just telling us about at the Pirate Gallery.
So at my last show I did, Phil talked to me and he asked me, do you want to do a show with him and me? And I said yes. So I've been working hard. I've been planning out, and yeah, it's exciting.
That's awesome, man. So you create art yourself. Do you have favorite artists? Do you like to look at art and have favorite artists that kind of inspire you?
Yes.
Anybody you want to name? Anybody in particular that you?
Actually, Phil Bender, because he inspired me to start taking my art a notch up, and it's really helped.
That's fantastic.
That's awesome.
So when you did that Instagram live, did you do that on your dad's Instagram, or do you have your own Instagram?
I did it on my dad's Instagram.
Okay. All right. Do you get a lot of comments, a lot of feedback?
Not a lot of comments, but a lot of feedback.
Right on.
Like through the emojis and stuff. So
very cool, man. So you have this exhibit coming up, and your dad said that the details are still trying to be worked out. But when it does happen, I'll tell you what we'll do. We will push it out on our Facebook page and let people know where they can go and see your work. Okay.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, sir, for coming on. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Here you go.
Good luck. Oh my God. Oh my God. That was awesome. I got me kind of choked up, dude.
Well, that's good. You haven't cried on an episode for a while. So.
That was so touching. I love it. What a great little guy.
Yeah, he's awesome, man. You're really he's a beautiful kid, man. Anything else you want to talk about that we didn't ask you about? Anything that you want to promote right now? I know things are kind of hanging out there and kind of up in the air a little bit just because of everything that's going on with the pandemic, and galleries trying to figure out how to pivot and make the works available to their audience. But if there's anything that you want to talk about, love to hear what you have to say.
I've been called by people a glass is 3/4 full kind of person. And I am. I'm an optimist because I believe that there is good in everything. This time is rough. I have good moments and then I have bad moments. But what I'd like to share and say is that we're in a unique time and we have the opportunity to either sit back and watch Netflix and eat ice cream and be depressed, or to work on ourselves and to make change that's going to improve our health and our sanity. And that's the path I've chosen. I've been more prolific in the last 3 months than I've ever been in my life, even during the time when I was producing those 10 paintings for my show in a 2-week period. Use your art to emit your soul and take time to understand it is a rough time and it's okay to be sad. But it's also our responsibility in our moment as artists to do something and to give back. We are important. We do have a role in society, and it's one of the most important roles there is. We incite change and we incite perspective changes. So we've got all this stuff going on, and I would encourage you to make the most of your time and to create lots of art and to partner with other people. And if you want to partner with me, reach out to me. I'm always down. Work on your own health. And it's the only way we're going to get through this if we stay sane and we understand that we do have power and we can use our voices.
Right on, man. So if people want to see your art and they want to find you on social media, can you just tell our listeners real quick where they can find you?
Yeah. I mean, I just was told that if you Google Topher Denver, I pop up first. But if you want to find me on Instagram and follow my Instagram TV shows and follow Oliver doing some live painting sessions on Instagram Live, my handle is at Creative Topher, Topher. I've got 2 websites, like I said. If you're a baller, check me out at www.topherstraus with 1s.com. And if you'd like a print to make your Zoom calls better, it's topherstrausprints.com. I'm pretty easily found, and I always respond to everyone. So I hope you come out. I've got a lot of shows, a lot of really cool things planned. If they don't happen this year, they're going to be moved back to next year. But I'm so excited about the work that I'm producing and the things that I'm doing in the exploration and learning. So check out my websites and reach out, please. And thank you guys so much for creating an opportunity to do this. This has been wonderful, and it's been a nice, long conversation. And I've really enjoyed every minute of it and the questions you've answered. So,
well, thank you. We're looking for. I'm super excited about seeing your current work that you're working on. Thank you for taking time out of your day to spend with us, and thanks for allowing Oliver to come on, because that was fun. It was a lot of fun. Todd?
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Sunday to chat with us. I really appreciate the time you gave us, and I wish you the best of luck with all your future endeavors, all the things, all the irons that you have in the fire right now. And it was really nice to see Oliver and talk to him. I will make sure that we have all the information for our listeners in the episode notes. So if you didn't catch it, it'll be there with the links to all of Topher's social media and his websites. And for the Tenet podcast, this is Todd Pearson.
And I'm Wes Brown.
Have a great week.